me real quick. Say something for me real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on today. It's like nothing's falling into place.
They know it's TV, honey. They only see finished product. They don't know what you have to go through. They only have to be on the road at 4, and I told them we'll have them out by then.
All right.
All right, talk for me, Loretta.
1, 2, 3. I'm so happy, happy, happy. 1, 2, 3. I'm so happy, happy, happy. I'm so excited about today's show, and you will too. And I don't want you to leave this show feeling like you have too much, or have you entered the show thinking you have too much or not enough. Well, just listen to my guests today, Joshua Millburn and Ryan Nicodemus. They're better known to their 2 million plus followers as the Minimalists. Josh and Ryan are childhood best friends who not so long ago were the embodiment of upwardly mobile, busy, fashionable, unhealthy 20-something-year-olds. And then they had a decision to make, and we'll bring them in now so they can tell you more about it. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Now everybody's wondering, what decision, Loretta, what decision did they make? So you're 20-something, and you just, as people would say, had it going on.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Because you had the big cars, the fast cars, big houses, all the best brand name clothes and shoes, and the life that a lot of people just pray and wish for.
Yeah, the life that I wished for. You know, 5 years ago, I was 27, I'm 32 now, and I had everything that I ever wanted. I had everything I was supposed to have, all the stuff you just mentioned, the 6-figure salary, all of the stuff, all the trappings of the American dream. But then my mother died and my marriage ended, both in the same month. And I sort of looked around at all the stuff that was in my life, all the things I'd worked so hard for such a long time, and realized that maybe the things in my life weren't exactly the most important things in my life. And I got to a point where I didn't know what was important anymore. So I had to start looking around all the things, and I stumbled across this thing online called Minimalism. And this whole community of people who had intentionally decided to live with fewer possessions, but with more meaning in their lives. And so I spent about 8 months really shedding the excess stuff in my life, getting rid of all of the superfluous items that were in the way, making room for some of the most important things in my life, things like my health. You know, at one point I weighed 80 pounds more than I weigh now. Like my relationships, you know, I forsook the most important relationships in my life because I was spending time achieving at work, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And I didn't pay attention to the closest people in my life. And I certainly didn't feel like I was growing as a person or contributing beyond myself, adding value to other people's lives. And so I had to figure out what was actually valuable in my life. And it turns out that a lot of it wasn't the stuff in my life.
Wow. Okay, I have some questions about that, but I want to get Ryan's take on what was happening for you to make that same decision that Joshua made.
So it's not like Josh came to me and said, "Hey, I'm a minimalist. You should be one." You know.
Yeah, that's not how it happened, because that's how I was thinking.
No.
You've got a lot of junk.
Right. Yeah. You know, I had everything I ever wanted, everything I was supposed to have. If you were to tell my 18-year-old self what my 28-year-old self was going to have, I would have been the most ecstatic 18-year-old. You know, I had a great job at a respectable corporation. I managed hundreds of employees. I earned a 6-figure income. I bought a shiny new car every couple years. I owned a huge 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-living-room condo. I have no idea why I needed 2 living rooms. It was just me and my cat. And, I was living the American dream. Everyone around me said I was successful, but I didn't feel successful. I noticed something different about Josh. He was happy for the first time in a really long time, like truly happy. But I didn't understand why, because we had worked side by side at the same corporation, both climbing the ranks throughout our 20s, and he was just as miserable as me. And then to boot, his mom had passed away and his marriage ended both in the same month. So he wasn't supposed to be happy, and he definitely wasn't supposed to be happier than me. So I did what any good best friend would do. I took Josh out to lunch. We went to some sandwich shop. As we were sitting there eating our sandwiches, I looked up at him and I'm like, hey man, why the heck are you so happy? And he started to tell me about this thing called minimalism. He talked about how he spent the last few months simplifying his life, getting the clutter out of the way to make room for what was truly important. And then he introduced me to an entire community of people who had done the same thing. There was a guy, his name's Colin, right? He's a 24-year-old entrepreneur who travels to a new country every 4 months, carrying with him everything that he owns. He owns like 50 things, which at first I thought, I don't want to just own 50 things. That seems a little extreme. But then he introduced me to a guy named Joshua Becker, 36-year-old husband and father of 2 with a car and a full-time job and a house in suburban Vermont. Then there was Courtney Carver, 40-year-old wife and mother to a teenage daughter in Salt Lake City. And there's this guy named Leo Babauta. He's got 6 kids. He lives in San Francisco. But there were these people who were living considerably different lives, people from different backgrounds with families and children, different work situations. But they all had at least 2 things in common. First, they were living deliberate, meaningful lives. They were passionate and purpose-driven. They seemed much richer than any of the so-called rich guys I worked with in the corporate world. And second, they attributed this thing, their meaningful lives, this great life, to minimalism, to this thing called minimalism. And me being the problem-solving guy that I am, I thought, okay, great, I'll be a minimalist. Now what?
So I want to kind of slow down and let everybody know, because people will hear this, and then you said the community of people. So immediately, I'm sure people are thinking a compound is some kind of religious group. So I just want to tell people that's not what it is. It has nothing to do with religion. It is simply people who have decided there's more in life than collecting gadgets. Now that's good, you can collect them, but the more meaningful part of life is when you are helping, you're giving other people some help, or you're contributing to the world by not drinking 1,000 million bottles of water and putting it in landfills. And just tell us, after you decide this is what I want to do, what was your first step? And did you give up your 2 living room condo?
Yeah, so like I said, I look up at Josh, I'm like, okay, man, this sounds like something that could help me gain a different perspective on life. Okay, great, I'm a minimalist. Now what do I do? We came up with this idea of a packing party. So the way I started was with this thing called a packing party, where we packed up everything in my 2,000 square foot condo as if I were moving. And then I would unpack things over the next 3 weeks just as I needed them, to see really what was bringing me joy or bringing me value.
And how much you actually used in a week, I guess.
Right, exactly. So Josh literally helped me box up everything. My clothes, my kitchenware, my towels, my electronics, my TVs, my framed photographs and paintings, my toiletries, even my furniture, everything. We literally pretended like I was moving. So after about 9 hours and a couple pizza deliveries, everything was packed. And there Josh and I were sitting in my second living room, feeling exhausted, staring at boxes stacked halfway to my 12-foot ceiling. It was really crazy, because like everything I had owned, everything I worked for over the last decade was just sitting there in that room, just boxes on top of boxes. So each box was labeled really well, so I would know where to go when I needed a particular item. Labels like kitchenware, junk drawer number 1, living room, bedroom, closet, junk drawer number 6, so forth and so on. So I unpacked over the next 21 days only the items I needed. So you can imagine that first night I unpacked my toothbrush, my bed and bed sheets, some clothes for work the next day. When I came home the second day, what do you think the first thing I unpacked was?
Pajamas? To chill?
Yeah, eventually I did. But I unpacked my TV.
Yeah.
I unpacked my internet. I probably unpacked a beer. And so I did this each.
So you put your food up too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I unpacked things as I needed it over the next 21 days. And after this experiment, after 3 weeks, 80% of my stuff was still sitting in those boxes, just sitting there unaccessed. And I looked at those boxes and I couldn't even remember what was in most of them. I mean, everything that was supposed to make me happy, all those possessions that I had bought to make me happy weren't doing their job. So, I donated and sold all of it.
So how did you do your packing party? Did you do something similar? Because you said 8 months.
I wish I would have. It took me about 8 months. I asked a really important question over and over and over. That question was, is this thing valuable? Does this thing add value to my life? And I had to be honest with myself because I realized I'd accumulated a lot of things, like Ryan, where he had 80% of his stuff still in boxes. Clearly, none of that stuff was really adding value to his daily life. And so I'd accumulated all this stuff that wasn't actually adding value, and I was focused on not just purchasing this stuff, but then there's the other costs, the hidden costs of taking care of the things, or cleaning the house all the time, and cleaning and taking care of the possessions, and upgrading our possessions, and doing all of these things that were eating up my time. It was one of the biggest seeds of discontent in my life. Was I didn't feel like I had control of my own time because I was spending it on taking care of or accumulating stuff. So I had to keep asking that question over and over. And it took about 8 months. And now that everything that I own as a minimalist, it serves a purpose or it brings me joy. So I still own stuff. I think if you came to my house right now, you wouldn't say, oh my gosh, Josh is a minimalist.
So you do have a house. You're not living in a tent. I mean, I just want people to understand that. Yeah, because when you hear that I gave up all my good stuff, you're not taking a vow of poverty here.
No.
You're just saying something I don't need every day.
You know, well, they say money doesn't buy happiness, but neither does poverty.
No, right.
And so, and I grew up really poor, and I've experienced the other side after climbing the corporate ladder, and I can tell you that money just accentuates whatever decisions you're making. If you're making good decisions, you'll make good decisions with money. If you're making bad decisions, you'll make bad decisions with money, and that's what I did. I got into massive amounts of debt when I was in my 20s. Even though I was making good money, I was spending even better money, and we know that doesn't work. You can do the math.
Yeah.
And so, if you come over to my house now, you're not going to say I'm a minimalist. You would look around and say, wow, he's kind of tidy. Because, I don't own a lot of stuff, but everything that I own adds value to my life. It serves a purpose or has a function or brings me joy.
Wow. So what do your friends say about this? Because I know you're on this 100-city tour.
Right.
For this year, so that means, does that mean you're living in your car? I know we talked briefly, you were sleeping on friends' couches, so what does a 100-city tour look like? And you have this fabulous book. We're gonna talk more about this book too, but right now I'm just trying to paint the picture for everybody about the journey and what you're telling all your 2 million plus followers about your journey as being minimalist.
Yeah, so as far as the tour goes, we are driving a 2004 Corolla. We like to refer to it as our tour bus.
It's a 12-year-old Toyota. It sounds much cooler if you say a tour bus.
But yeah, we'll stay at hotels if we have to, or sometimes we have readers who volunteer a room or voluntary. Some of our readers have extra houses, which is great. But wherever we can stay, it's not like we're out, again, sleeping in our tent. We have slept in our car just because we've kind of gotten in a position where we're in the middle of the desert. We're really tired, going from Phoenix to Albuquerque or something, and got to pull over and get some rest. But yeah, we're getting out there and talking to our readers and just really just helping people live more meaningful lives.
So how does getting rid of your things help you to live a more meaningful life?
I think that you can get rid of everything you own and still be miserable. So that's the message that we're not trying to say is get rid of your stuff, you're going to be happy. Yeah. What we're really trying to tell people is it's about living more intentionally, more deliberately. And what we're really trying to do is share our recipe. For me, and I know for Ryan as well, it was about getting the clutter out of the way to make room for everything that remains. That's how we got the title of the book, actually, because it was figuring out after decluttering, like what happens after you declutter. So getting rid of the stuff wasn't the end result for us. It was just the first step.
That was the beginning.
Absolutely. Okay. It was clearing the path so you can move towards something more important, something more purpose-driven. And so on our journey, it's been a lot more about focusing on our health or our relationships. You mentioned the people in our lives or our friends. You know, we have really great supportive friends now, and there were some people though who didn't understand what we were doing at the time.
Did you lose friends over this?
I think we reprioritized a lot of friends, that's for sure. In some cases, definitely lost friends or said, you know what, I'm not spending enough time with the people who are closest to me. Because for the longest time, I was spending time with people who were, you know, coworkers. Maybe it's because they worked the office over or the cubicle over or whatever. And a lot of relationships were birthed out of convenience instead of spending time with the people I love and care about the most.
How about for you, Ron?
Yeah, I'll tell you, when you call yourself the minimalist, you find out who your friends are really quickly.
Yeah, when they can't come and, you know, see all the Brook Brothers suits and the Italian shoes and all that stuff. So how do they see you guys? Did you lose friends? I asked him that. So did you lose friends?
Yeah. You know, I lost people who I thought were my friends, and it was really hard at the time.
Was that painful?
It was it was a little painful, but you know, at the end of the day, when I look back, it really was a blessing because I really found out who my true friends were. Because your true friends support you.
Yeah.
They encourage you. They build you up. And what I found is the people who weren't supporting me or building me up after I went down this road of minimalism, that they were just kind of with me along for the ride for my lifestyle and you know, the way I was just living my life in a way that wasn't making me happy. And you know, I was really glad to cut those friends out.
So now that you're on the tour in 100 cities, so Memphis is on that tour, your first time here.
Yes.
So is it what you thought it was, better, worse?
Oh, I love Tennessee.